For the majority of people studying Qigong these days, I think that having an art that can help you to relax and center your mind and deal with stress is obviously a very useful thing. And I think that's when I encounter people, that's what the majority of people are after. Now, to be honest, that level of gain from the practice can be had from simply going through the movements. Any deep breathing exercises with coordinated arm movements and a relaxed mind focusing either on a point like the Dantian or out into the rest of the body will bring you that level of relaxation. For other people, they're after something more specific, I find within their practice, so something medically enhancing for their body. Maybe they wish to deal with their well-being after an operation or after some kind of treatment, or maybe there's a weakness in their organs they're seeking to deal with, or perhaps the joints are starting to become damaged and they wish to lubricate them or something like this. I mean, that becomes the basis for the reason that many people study medical Qigong, which of course is probably the most common category of Qigong that people are studying. Coming into it as a young teenager, I failed to see the benefit of both of those things. Now as I get older, obviously I can understand why health and relaxation are vitally important to achieve any quality of life, but at the age of 14 I had no idea of any of this and had no interest in studying something purely for relaxation or health. So if I think back to my early encounters with Qigong and indeed the internal arts, because I didn't have this desire for becoming suitably relaxed or improving a weak health condition or anything like this, I guess I remember wanting to quit and walk away from the practice, but luckily I encountered a couple of people, 2 or 3 really, who really opened my eyes and enabled me to understand that there was a lot more behind the practice. So alongside Qigong, somebody started to explain alchemical aspects of the practice. Admittedly, it was a rudimentary level, but you know, I had to start somewhere. And as well as this, I guess I started to see the uses and applications of interesting things such as Jing and energy work within arts like Tai Chi. So the martial application of Qigong became very interesting to me as well. As time has gone on, and I've got deeper into my studies and my practices, I've gone full circle, and actually the health and meditative aspects of the arts have become my primary concern for studying Qigong and Neijing practices. What I encounter more and more as I teach is that many people are now looking in their practice for something deeper. They wish to move beyond the sort of foundational levels or the surface layers of their practice and move into something more rewarding, more challenging within their art form. And what we also find is, you know, within our school is many people that we encounter have had problems arising from Qigong as well. And that's not hugely, you know, if 100 people study Qigong and do it to a mediocre level or something like this, maybe 1, maybe 2 people will get problems out of that 100. It's not a lot of people. And to be honest, a lot of those problems actually come because they're relaxing and they're tuning into their bodies for the first time, and for a lot of people they're actually starting to become aware of what's taking place inside their body. So all of a sudden this underlying condition they had no idea about suddenly pops up into their awareness. So what they believe is that the Qigong has made them sick, when in actual fact the Qigong has made them aware of an underlying illness or deficiency that's been there all along. Poor old Qigong gets the blame. But there are those few other exceptions, those few people that actually the Qigong practice they've done has damaged their body. And a lot of the time these issues can be avoided if a person understands some of the primary foundational principles that sit behind these arts and how they work. So the key one to understand, really, certainly for beginners, is how the kidneys and what they call the Jing, the essence, how it is relevant to the practice of Qigong. So, most people will know, who've encountered Daoism, that Taoist teachers will talk about three treasures, three substances known as Jing, Qi and Shen, generally translated as meaning essence, energy and spirit or mind, consciousness, whatever. They're seen as three energetic substances within the body that essentially sit at different levels of density or frequency, whatever term you want to use. And the Qigong practitioner is aiming to, through their practice, regulate and govern these substances within the body. A lot of the time problems come because, or a glass ceiling appears in a person's practice, because they're trying to work with Qigong, going to the level of Qi. Okay, so what is Qi? It is a transformational process, a movement, a line of information within the body, a vital energy, however you want to translate it, it really doesn't matter to me. It's just jargon, terminology that goes with the practice. But most people try to jump here to Qi without really understanding that Qi has to sit on the platform of Jing. It's just the way it is. Okay. So in Daoism, Jing is on the bottom. We could picture a pyramid. You'd have Jing down here. Qi sits on top, and then Shen on top like so. So each one is built upon a foundation of the layer before. So the health of your mind will largely depend upon the quality of the Qi, how much you can regulate the energy within your body. The health of your Qi can only reach a certain state if the foundation of your Jing, your essence, is nice and strong, or consolidated and worked within the correct fashion. The mistake a lot of people make is they start encountering Qigong, and if they're lucky, they find a teacher that's able to teach them, okay, here's how we generate a lot more Qi, this is how we move this substance through the body. And then of course what people start to have is sensations, tangible experiences, changes in body temperature, feelings of electricity tingling through the body, I don't know, itches and ticking and buzzing, moving through the limb, all of these different things. I mean, these are all sensations that are a byproduct of what they're doing. Of course, the sensation should be aimed for, they're just the body reacting to a larger movement of information, energy, Qi, whatever you want to call it, through the body because of what you're doing. Now, if you're going to move that energy to a higher degree and start shifting around inside the body, that's okay, that's good, okay, because we want as much movement and everything as we can within the body, within this Qi. But you must remember that it's always built upon a foundation of Jing. So what that means is that a person, a practitioner, a sincere practitioner who wishes to go deep into their practice of Qigong must understand Jing and how to work with it. If that foundation is not there, energy work is going to be weakened. So, in understanding Jing, we need to understand, first of all, one key thing that is often seems to be overlooked in contemporary practice. Your Jing is not your sexual fluids. So Jing is not semen or anything like this. Your Jing is a frequency, a substance, an information that sits behind the realm of existence. Okay, it is not physical, it is not tangible. One of the things that Jing does is it helps to create your sexual fluid, and along with this, your sexual drive and your impotence, your level of potency, your level of fertility and things like this. This comes out of the Jing, but it's not Jing itself specifically. Yeah. So this means that if a person wishes to build a solid foundation in their Jing, it doesn't simply mean never have sex, or learn how to, which is a common one, how to orgasm without ejaculating. It's a mug's game. Very few people actually achieve any level of success in building the Jing with it, and certainly that kind of concept is not required for the early stages of Qigong work. Instead, what we're looking for is an understanding of what Jing is and then a way to regulate the substance. Now, if a person, their Jing starts to become deficient, weak, overused, burned up too quickly, then often what you get is a knock-on effect to the organ that is related to the Jing, which is the kidneys. Okay, so people would get what Chinese medicine people call a deficiency of energy, of health of the kidney system within the body. Symptoms for weakness or exhaustion of the kidneys' energy can include things like a weak lower back, sore knees that click and feel like they lack lubrication when you're moving, to chronic states of exhaustion. That's quite normal, and if you see someone who's starting to practice Qigong but they're working with energy on a weak foundation of Jing, what you'll tend to find is as soon as they start doing the Qigong, that chronic exhaustion pops right up and they become drained. So even if they're doing a regulating Qigong practice, they've been told it's very, very calming, it's building the Qi, everyone else in the room is feeling really revitalized and calm. The person with a poor foundation of Jing, every time they do this exercise, all they do is they drain themselves more. So you find after 10, 15 repetitions in the exercise, they want to go over to the corner and sleep. Often, this gets misrecognized as the person is so relaxed that they need to go chill out, they need to rest. But in other case, actually, they've essentially been tapping into a weakness within their kidneys and then suddenly experiencing a chronic exhaustion. Other signs and symptoms is it's quite normal for people to start getting things like ringing in the ears. And so tinnitus is a chronic condition that is in Chinese medicine is a relationship to weakness of the kidneys and ultimately the Jing, the foundation of the essence. But what's missed is that often in Qigong practice, while people are going through their exercises and they're relaxing and they're in their headspace, short bursts of tinnitus will start to come. So people will have, very commonly in Qigong schools, periods of 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds of ringing in their ears, of tinnitus starting to pop up. And this is a sign that because of what the person is doing, they're actually starting to tap into that weakness of the kidneys. And that's a sign that in their Qigong practice, they need to look more closely at building a foundation within the Jing aspect of the body in order to build a solid platform to continue with their Qigong practice. The kidneys and the Jing also have a relationship to other organs within the body. There are countless ways in which the kidneys can start to affect your body, and if you're not a Chinese medicine practitioner, which I'm guessing a lot of people watching this video won't be, then it would seem needlessly complicated for me to go into all of these. So I'm just going to choose common ones that pop up in Qigong practice to show that there is a weakness in the kidneys and more of a foundation in Jing needs to be built. A common one is that they say within Chinese medicine that the kidneys grasp the energy from the lungs. Okay, so when your lungs breathe in energy from the environment, it is the kidneys that help that energy be anchored into the body. Essentially what that means is that if somebody starts doing Qigong and they become breathless, which is very, very common in Qigong practice, you ask them to breathe very, very deep, very, very slow, and they find that all of a sudden they start to become a bit panicky, a bit breathless. That's normally a sign that the kidneys are a little bit weak. The key component of that breathing is normally what they'll find is it's much easier to breathe out than breathe in. So if you ask them to breathe out and they breathe out very, very long and slow, very, very long and slow, then that's easy enough. If you ask them to breathe in, it's like a gasp and a strain. They have to get that in there really nice and quick. It's because the kidneys are having difficulty grasping that qi in Daoist terminology, Chinese terminology, because of their exhaustion, their weakness. Another thing that can start to appear in people with weak kidneys is because the kidneys essentially govern yin, and the Jing and the essence of yin, all these are one related system. If they start to become depleted, then the body becomes quite yang, so people can start to get feelings of pressure suddenly rising up in their body. Headaches can start to appear, and sort of feelings of panic and things like this. Heat starts appearing around the chest and stuff. These are some things normally associated with organs such as the liver and the heart and things like this, liver fire flaring, yang rising. But these can also be a reaction taking place to a weakness within the kidney system of the body. What I'm trying to show you by telling you this is basically some key signs and symptoms that you will see in people who maybe you've experienced yourself. I know I have at different times when I've practiced incorrectly, which if you're going to study anything for over 30 years, you're going to do it wrong at times. So, when those mistakes are made and those symptoms start to pop up, you need to recognise them and go, oh, hang on, I'm starting to feel exhausted, my back's hurting, there's a ringing in my ears. I need to go back and look at the foundation of my kidneys, because if I continue with my practice as it is, I'm just going to continue to drain myself further and further and further. So, the essence, the Jing, essentially in Daoist cosmology, we need to look at the esoteric belief system, conceptual model of how life is generated, how life is created. What doesn't work is if you take something like Qigong, in my opinion, what doesn't work is if you take something like Qigong and you try to explain it purely in modern Western terms. To me, that's not only flawed, it's also quite arrogant. It's like saying, well, okay, these guys practiced Qigong for 2,000 years, 3,000 years, I don't know, whatever people argue over the history, but people have been practicing this art and they got to this level and they did all this art and they created this wonderful practice for health regulation, but because they were idiot primitives, they didn't really understand how these work. So consequently, what we're going to do is we're going to understand this through the model of Western science instead, because we know better. The problem with this is that modern practitioners, most people will agree, rarely get to the same stage as people, as far as we understand in ancient records. Now, on top of this, when I've been travelling around, and I've travelled extensively in China, Southeast Asia, and Qigong, much as people like to think it's very much out in the open, actually that's not true. There's a lot of still secrecy within the practice of Qigong. I mean, you often, in order to get to certain places, you have to be introduced to someone who's introduced to someone else, and you have to have a letter of introduction. All these kind of things still exist. Now, after many years searching, I have had the chance to meet many high-level practitioners of Qigong who've got to extraordinary levels in their practice. And the one constant that I find amongst them is that all of them use classical terminology when they're explaining what they do. So even the couple I can think of that are very modern and scientific in their view on life, when they discuss Qigong, they still drop back to using old terminology. So while they may have opinions that Qigong discusses the endocrine system or the glands, or it's talking about DNA or something like that, as soon as they start teaching, they drop back into the terms Jing, Qi, Shen. Essentially, they start using classical terminology. The terminology has been used for a reason, and the conceptual model that has been created by the people who developed these systems is used on purpose. It is used because it is a model that allows us to understand what's taking place. As soon as we start over-complicating that model by adding in, well, what is my blood oxygen level doing? What is my cellular metabolism doing? What is going on with my DNA this time? As soon as we start adding those, we overcomplicate everything, the conceptual model becomes screwed up, and the person all of a sudden is lost in this mire of intellectual scrutinizing. That means they can't get at the core of what's going on. We don't really need to understand, again, only my opinion, but I don't really believe we need to understand the exact biological nature of what's going on. We just need to have a working conceptual model that we can work with, so that our awareness can start to engage with our body, process what's taking place, add to it to a certain extent, because where your yi goes, energy flows. So as soon as my awareness understands the concept of what's taking place inside my body, it starts to get stronger. And as soon as that happens, then your practice starts to roll on. This is why I tend to use classical terminology. The reason I'm telling you this is because even if you don't believe in Jing, Qi, Shen, well, if you don't believe in Jing, Qi, Shen, Qigong is a strange thing to practice, to be honest. But even if you don't hold that within your belief system, you still need to understand the conceptual model that people were working to when they developed these systems, and the conceptual model that most people are using that have achieved high levels within their practice. If you can understand this, you can understand how the art was developed, and then you can understand the model that shows you where pitfalls start to pop up, and hey presto, your practice comes on leaps and bounds. So Jing, before I sidetracked, Jing, your essence, is a blueprint that sits behind creation. Okay, so it is not physical, it is not a thing I can grab, it's not a substance, it's an intangible information source that sits behind manifestation of physical matter. So just like Shen, your spirit, is not something you can grab. Qi, your energy, is not something you can grab, it's an information source in the body. Your Jing is also not something that is tangible. It exists outside of the body, and then where we experience this substance is at a point called the mingmen that sits at the lower back. Now in Chinese medicine, the mingmen is said to reside underneath the second lumbar vertebra in the center of your back. Okay, so it's a very, very fine point that essentially sits around the region of the kidneys. In Qigong and alchemy, it doesn't have to be so exact. Essentially with the mingmen, what they're discussing is the lower region of your back. And if you ever experience through your training sensitivity of the movement of energy within mingmen, you'll see that actually it's a much larger point than they discuss in acupuncture or shiatsu or something like this. So the mingmen, ming refers essentially to something that's rather complicated. That would be another lengthy explanation, but if we want to simplify it, we could say that it discusses your destiny, your fate, your path through life. Now, in Daoism, your path through life is to a large degree dictated, amongst other things, by the health of your Jing. So the quality of a person's Jing, their essence, is often simplified to the model of being like fuel. So this fuel has to see you through your path is birth, and it has to see you all the way through your path in life up to the point of your death. So this line, this path you're taking is your ming. Okay, the health of your ming, there's other things, I'm oversimplifying it, but the health of your ming is dependent upon the quality of your Jing, the fuel, the impetus, the power, the substance, the essence that allows you to move through this line. The reason it is the fuel is because your Jing is said to govern your growth and developmental processes. So primarily that's to do with my body, okay? It's to do with how my body ages, how it grows, how it hits peak, and then how it comes down the other side and it starts to age and then it starts to break down. So this is all governed by the health of the Jing, right? So the ming is the line this takes. Men means a gateway, a doorway, okay? So mingmen, this area here, means it's the gateway where the Jing enters into your body so that it can govern the movement of your life along this path of ming, right? Okay, that's essentially what the point is talking about. Any meridian point on the body with the term men, gateway, is referring to something being potential through to manifest. That's what it's discussing. So the mingmen takes the potential information of your Jing, this base information, these blueprints that sit behind your reality, and then it manifests them into your essence, okay? The strength, the resilience of the kidneys and this whole system around here and the essence within the body, and it creates it and it pulls it through the gateway, through the men, into manifestation, essentially, of your life and your ming and your health and your growth and your development, okay? Maybe I made that overcomplicated, I'm not sure. You can play that back and listen to it again and see if you can find any sense in what I said. So, the Jing enters into the body, okay, in our conceptual model, through this point called mingmen, into the body, where it is governed largely by the health of the kidneys, okay, and then moves through into the rest of our system to give us our vitality, our essence, and our overall health. Things like this, our immune system, Chinese medicine is largely linked to that. You know, this is all to do with this. So maybe we could call this our sort of, our vitality, our well-being, yeah, all governed by this. So, from here, for the mingmen, it is said that, like something drip feeding, the Jing slowly moves through into our body because now it's manifest as an energy, through into the body and starts to do various things. The first thing it does is it will move through into the lower abdomen and develop something drawn on this chart here. This is an neijingtu. I don't know if you can see this, but there's water on the bottom of this chart. This is a representation of the lower area of the abdomen. This whole section this is the lower abdomen on this classical chart. And it essentially means that it forms like a pool in the lower part of the body. From here, some of this moves down towards the perineum, and then that moves through into the sexual organs, and that is where your sexual fluids are created as a byproduct of the Jing. Okay? A lot of that energy is lost for men through ejaculation and orgasm as well. This is what is often missed. That stopping ejaculating won't stop you depleting the Jing. Orgasm itself uses up Jing because it still requires the energy to generate that reaction. In women, it moves a little bit differently within the body. The study of the movement of Jing within women is another. There's various complexities that are a whole study in their own right. But in the basics of it essentially is the Jing, instead of seminal fluid, starts to change into menstrual blood. So women will lose their essence every month when they menstruate. Okay, so that's the female version of of losing energy, because women don't lose Jing to any like minuscule amounts, but they won't use up any Jing through sexual activity because of the way their body is built and the way that they experience orgasm and things. They don't lose energy that way, it's through menstruation instead. Now, from here, some of that Jing also moves into the lower Dantian, the lower abdomen, which is depicted here on this region of the diagram. The lower Dantian is a field that sits in the lower abdomen. Never make the mistake of thinking the Dantian is your pelvis and your ribs and everything like this. This is a common mistake normally coming from Tai Chi people who have tried to strip anything esoteric and alchemical out of their practice. It's all mechanics, it's all mechanics. No, it's not, I'm afraid not. There is a deeper aspect of what you're doing, okay? If you're discussing the Dantian, it's an alchemical thing. It came from alchemy, okay? It was an alchemical principle transferred across. Alchemists didn't care about their pelvises. They were looking for something else within the body. So within our practice, within the body, essentially you have a sphere of information that anybody who's practiced a while would experience called the Dantian, okay? You have several of them, but this is the key one. As this Jing moves through into the lower Dantian, it starts to be converted, because part of the job of the lower Dantian is to step up frequencies. It starts to change that substance, and it changes it into Qi, okay? So this here is sometimes known as the lower cauldron within alchemical text. It means essentially that this is a place where Jing is cooked, is converted, is boiled, and then the steam, this analogy starts to rise, so then your Qi starts to move through into the rest of the body, where it is distributed largely by this region of the body, your chest and your middle Dantian, out into the rest of the system to give you the Qi that moves through your body, okay? It's in part created from this, and it also has the addition of the air you breathe and the food you eat coming together, but that's your Qi. So the lower Dantian starts to convert this up, okay? Now, as soon as we start practicing Qigong and we start moving more of this energy around, what we require is lots of reserves of Jing and lots of reserves of Qi into our body so that this can happen more efficiently. And this is the importance of something called yang shengfa. Yang shengfa translates as life-nourishing principles. If you want to change that into easy English, you could call it healthy living, okay? If you wish to regulate your Jing, you must, and I see this time and time again in Qigong practitioners, you must adopt healthy living principles, okay? This was very, very important, and they're very, very basic. So lots of people running around, how do I store my Jing? How do I store my Jing? Do I do this exercise 36 times? Do I eat this herb? Do I give up sex altogether and live life as a monk or something like this? Well, if you wish to, or you could enjoy life and adopt healthy living principles instead. Okay, so there is correct levels of rest. Make sure you sleep a good amount of time, but not too much rest. Okay, you need to find a balance for your body. 7 to 8 hours a night sleep is fine. Any more than that, you start to make the body sluggish. That depletes the Jing. It's all about balance. You need to adopt a healthy diet. There needs to be exploration of what you are eating and what you are putting into your body. A lot of people can actually regulate their Jing, the essence, just through changing their diet. And so many people eat like shit. I can't believe it. Qigong practitioners who live on pizzas. What are you doing? You're trying to do an art that's working with Qi, with energy in your body, and you're going to be creating the quality of that energy through what you intake. Okay, alcohol, a little bit, okay, but not too much. Smoking, these things, stop these things. It can't happen. Okay, no Qigong practitioner should smoke. I don't want to say overly strong things, but if you're a Qigong practitioner and you smoke, then you'll never get anywhere, nowhere. If you're a Qigong teacher and you smoke and you damage your lungs, you're doing breathing exercises, you're a fraud. Stop smoking. No, it's not helpful. Now, the other aspect to regulation of the Jing is the mind, because if I'm going to go through my life stressed and panicky, what happens is the heart flares up because your emotions sit here in Daoism. They say that fire starts to flare in Daoism. Water must be created to put out the fire. Okay, water, kidneys. So the kidney energy starts to get drained, so you start to put out the fire to calm the emotions, to calm the body down. That depletes your Jing. So a large reason many people have a problem with the foundation of their Jing is because they're too stressed. So what I often prescribe to people who wish to regulate the kidneys is really, really simple. Sitting quietly and breathing. Okay? Nothing too complicated. There's no need to do 37 regulations this way and 24 regulations this way and picture this blue light and blah 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 blah. Put your hands in this position. Don't worry. Sit calmly, upright, close your eyes. Breathe. Just observing the body in and out through the nose, nice and calm, nice and regulated. 20 minutes a day. Nothing too strong, don't try to force anything, no, just relax. You are relaxing and breathing and allowing your body just to calm down, the heart fire can become quiet, the Jing can start to grow still. That on top of your healthy living, your yang shengfa, starts to then regulate the quality of the Jing, and then you start building a solid base from which to progress in your practice. Now, this chart, the neijingtu, is really, really important for alchemical practitioners and Qigong practitioners as well. There's a great version of it in Beijing. If you ever get to a place called White Cloud Temple in Beijing, it's very easy to find. It's just off of a metro line if you're over there. You'll find a great version of this drawing carved into the wall, along with several other charts. Go and see if you can find it. Just ask around in the courtyard and you'll find it. It's one of my favourite charts for alchemy. But if you look at this chart, what this contains is a lot of the information for regulation of the kidneys and the Jing as it relates to our practice. So, though it's considered primarily an alchemical meditation chart, it's also relevant to what we're doing in Qigong or Neijing as well, and all internal arts. On the bottom, we already discussed, we have the water, the kidney water, right? So, on top of this, what we also have, we'll do it in the wrong order, but it'll be easy to understand. This is the mingmen point. Okay, this is this point I talked about where potential becomes manifest into the body. Because these flames are the ming huo. Ming huo meaning ming fire. Okay, so whenever they talk about fire with regards to your body, what they're talking about is a catalyst for something to happen. Okay, so just like there has to be heat to create many chemical reactions, excitement of molecules and things like this. The body also requires an energetic version of heat in order to create alchemical change, right? So what that essentially becomes is expansion, okay? Warmth is expansion, energetically. So what this means is around the lower, you can't see now, I'm getting around the lower part of my back, around the mingmen region, my energy, if it's healthy, will gently be expanding out, like little pulses from that area of the body. And you'll know this if ever you've taught Qigong or something like this, or even a massage practitioner. If you've got somebody with healthy kidneys, healthy Jing, they'll have a healthy ming fire, healthy expansion in this part of the body. So when you run you can try it if you like, when you run your hand over their back, you don't even have to be touching them. If you've got a good level of energetic sensitivity, you'll feel it pushing, like two magnets repelling each other. You'll feel it pushing off. You're feeling the expansion of Qi from the ming fire, from the ming huo. It can generate the feeling of warmth on your palm. So a person lower back, a couple of inches off their back, should feel nice and warm. If a person has weak kidneys, weak Jing, or a weak ming fire, you won't get that. And in extreme cases, what you can even get is a feeling of your hand being sucked into the person's back, or a feeling of cold. This means that this important energetic catalyst isn't there. So that person really needs to look at regulating the health of their Jing through yang shengfa practices to try and get this fire going, to get this expansion. So it comes through here and then it goes down into the lower part of the body. You can see there's a little bit of a waterfall coming out of a nice little temple here. This is showing the flowing down into the water around the base of the body. And it also, for alchemy practitioners, they often, at the base of the body, draw a little leakage point because they're showing a very important leakage point that sits around the perineum. So this is why perineal control of the Yin point is very, very important for alchemy practitioners, but we don't have to worry about it too much for Qigong. So here, these yin and yang, these two people here represent yin and yang. They're the yin and yang twins, if you like, we'll call them, the Chuckle brothers. And they're working away on these little wheels, toiling away at the bottom. Also this guy's ploughing a field with a bull. This is all representing work, okay? Work, effort, things we have to do around the lower abdomen, yeah? This is very, very important because in Daoism there's a belief that we don't do anything. Yeah, okay, don't do anything, everything, just let it happen spontaneously. That's kind of true, but there has to be an initiatory process in the beginning, right? So, for example, if you're doing a Qigong exercise, whatever it is, simple movement, you're doing something, yeah? So you're already breaking the rule of not doing anything. So that thing you're doing, that is the catalyst, that is the initiator, that is the process you're starting. And then once that process starts, it becomes like a snowball rolling down a hill, picking up speed, hopefully, that process then builds and builds and builds, and that becomes your practice. Now at later stages, when your practice has gone a long way and you've got really good, you're like, fucking hell, yeah, I'm a Qigong master. Then at that stage, then you can sit back and observe what is taking place. That's the point of the process, when you just allow things to take place of their own accord. It's for that reason that you'll hear an analogy saying in Qigong circles, often where, I'll paraphrase, but basically they say that beginners do 90% movement exercises and 10% static. Okay, so 10% silent sitting or silent standing. An advanced practitioner will do 90% sitting and standing static work and 10% moving. Okay, so what that means is the movements, the doing, has become less and less and less and less because they've already initiated that process. They've already done the work of the Chuckle brother yin yang twins and the farmer fellow here with his bad hat and his bull. They've already done this work, so now they can sit back and observe, and through integration of the yin, observation, ting, the skill of listening, mindfulness of what's taking place inside, that process gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But that can only happen when people have got past this foundation, past this lower part of the neijingtu chart. So, here, what we have is a cauldron with fire on top of it. Okay. Now, this second fire has different meanings. In alchemy, what it's referring to essentially is the lighting of the cauldron, which is a very specific alchemical breathing technique. But luckily, it's a multi-layered diagram. So for Qigong practice, we don't need to worry about that too much. Instead, what this fire represents to us is simply the cooking, the conversion of Jing to Qi that takes place in the lower Dantian. When it moves into this region, the lower Dantian is represented by these four neijingtu symbols, they're called, often called the yin-yang diagram by most people, but correct name is a neijingtu if you want to split hairs. These symbols are rotating and they're also expanding, creating radiance around the lower abdomen. Now, this is a constant thing you'll find, okay? It's important to understand, right? Different systems have different ways of working. So, if this is your Dantian, if your Dantian is made of wood, this big and this heavy, you've got trouble. But we should use it as a representation. For many Qigong systems, essentially what they're trying to do through the Qigong, through work with the Dantian, is to sink everything down towards this area. So what that means essentially is through classical principles like releasing the chest, which is counter stretch through the lifting of the head, relaxation of the soul, shoulders, and sung, relaxing down through the body, then like water filtering down, your qi starts to sink down into the lower dantian and it starts to build, okay? So what that starts to do is that builds a higher level of energy within the lower dantian, combined with the regulation of Jing through your almost saint-like healthy living principles that you've adopted. This starts to generate the cooking, and what you have is a high level of qi. A great deal of medical qigong practices work in this manner, and it's very, very sensible, because what it means is your step-up transformer is receiving larger amounts of information, of energy, that it can start to convert and shift through the rest of your body. Hence you have high level of energy flow, high level of vitality, and high health. Okay. Other systems will do different things with the dantian. Okay. Some will pack, squeeze energy into the low dantian. Now I personally am not a fan of said methods, but that's okay. Everybody to their own. I don't mind, it's just a personal preference. If other people want to do it, that's okay. But these systems try to squeeze lots of energy into the lower Dantian. If it's done at a late stage in practice, it can be good, but for beginners, I should reiterate, this is why I'm a little bit against it. I think for beginners it can be a little bit risky, lead to blockages and stagnation around the lower abdomen. But if you're a highly experienced individual, then go for it. So, as energy starts to pack into here, this becomes denser and denser and denser. And this is a method used in a lot of martial Qigong, as well as a lot of Neijing schools, where they're trying to combine yin and yang in the lower Dantian. Other systems turn the lower Dantian. Okay, so it rotates like so. It turns over. I'm supposed to be turning it smoothly, but it's got a bit of a wobble. But as they start turning it over, what it starts to do is it starts to direct information and cause it to move. So as it turns like that, it's like a propeller, if you like. That's a weird analogy. It's like a propulsion system. So as it turns over, it drives up your back, yeah, so it starts to direct the movement of energy through the channels. Different systems will try to make it move different ways, but over the years I've encountered, I can think of at least 6 or 7 different systems that worked with rotation or movement of the Dantian in different ways. Other systems aim to move it up and down, left and right. Some aim for complete free revolution, some of them turning over, doesn't matter. Whatever their system, essentially, I try not to knock it down. This is shown here. This is 4 wheels. It's like a cartoon animation, stock frame animation of the Dantian starting to turn along with the cooking, and this starts to drive information, Jing, converting to Qi. This is the radiance up through the lower back, so start to activate the rest of the energetic system. And then neijingtu carries on in this manner, showing a conversion process of Jing to Qi to Shen. So, for Qigong or Neijing practitioners, whatever system you use, you'll have a different way of working with the Dantian. And even if you're not aware, maybe you've not specifically been told, you've not had that instruction within your system, how you're working with Dantian, you should be able to figure it out. Because if your system is based on a lot of sinking, a lot of sung, a lot of releasing, a lot of dropping down, then essentially you're trying to lead everything down to the lower Dantian. That's your model for work. If you are squeezing, constantly pushing like this and storing here, then you're packing or squeezing into the lower Dantian. That's your way of working. And if you're using manipulation of your body structure and controlled intention, then you're mobilizing the lower Dantian. This is often combined with muscular contractions and things like this. A little bit more forceful methods usually. But these are all different ways of working with it. Now, if you're going to move deep into the practice, then you need to identify how you're working with it, and you need to understand the workings of Jing, essence, according to the teachings of Daoism, in order to make sure that you are building an efficient foundation as you possibly can in order to guarantee, if you can, guarantee success, whatever that is in your practice. If a person can regulate the Jing and take this side of their practice on board, then their Qigong will become 100 times more efficient, way more efficient, and it really just comes down to those few things: understanding the model, understanding yang shengfa, understanding the relationship between the kidneys, the Jing, the lower Dantian, and then starting to integrate that into your practice. I hope this has been helpful in some way. I filmed this video kind of off the cuff, but I thought I'd just share with you in my own training room here some key principles and thoughts around the Jing, the kidneys, the lower Dantian, and the essence. If any of it has been helpful to you in any way, then that's great. I hope that gives you a hand in your system. And if none of it's been helpful, well, that's all right. You've only wasted half hour or so. Thanks very much.